But I want to show y'all today how easy it is to cook a beautiful Central Texas style brisket on our Legacy. And one of the things that I love about it, I pretty much line up the charcoal basket, the fire basket down on the bottom about halfway full with lump charcoal, a couple of chunks of wood, lower it all the way to the bottom, let that fire just kind of settle in where I want it. It's usually going to be right around 300 in most cases. Then once I have my fire set, I can go work on my brisket or the other meats. Or once I have my brisket in there, I can literally go to town for 3 hours. I know how well they run. I know how efficient they are. I don't have to worry about babysitting the fire. This makes it so much easier. Hey, what's up barbecue lovers? Arnie Tex here. Today we're doing a Central Texas style barbecue brisket on the Hasty Bake Legacy 132 model. Some people get very intimidated with brisket because it's a big old piece of meat and it takes a lot of time. But at the end of the day, really and truly, it's just time, patience, temperature, and a little bit of technique. What we're running our Hasty Bake is Hasty Bake charcoal. I like that charcoal because it's just strictly hickory and oak. Those are two of my favorite woods. We're gonna trim this brisket up real nice. We're not gonna overdo it. Again, it's not a competition brisket. We wanna show you, the backyard guy, how to trim and cook a really great Texas style brisket at your house. If you really want a nice, juicy, succulent Texas style brisket, friends, it's really worth the extra $15 or $20 to buy a prime brisket. I always try to find marbling right here on the sides. And if you look close here, you can see a lot of intramuscular fat that runs all the way through the brisket. Okay, so here we see that we do have quite a bit of fat over the point side of it. We want to get as much fat as we can. Oops, sometimes you got to be careful. Don't take too much off. Okay, you want to take your knife and just very carefully try to shave off a little at a time. Don't get in too big a hurry. It's pretty traditional to eat some of the fat with the Texas brisket, so we're gonna leave some of that on there. But smaller mass is also less weight, so it cooks a little bit quicker that way. You wanna leave about a 1/4 inch approximately on there. Remember that fat is flavor. When we wrap this brisket, we want some of the fat in there. It adds moisture to the wrap. It adds flavor to the au jus, the meat's cooking out while it's cooking in the wrap. I like to flatten out the brisket, so I'm gonna trim this off. This is really, really good meat. Makes great hamburgers, makes great tacos. Flattening out the brisket makes it cook a lot more even. So you have a really big thick point and a thin flat. One side's gonna be done earlier than the other. So I like to flatten that out a little bit. It lays even. It's gonna cook nice and even all the way around. There's a big debate, always has been and probably always will be with brisket is what's the best way to cook? Fat side up, fat side down. It works both ways. Both ways produce great, wonderful brisket. However, traditionally, Texas style brisket is cooked with the fat side up. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put it fat side down to start out with. Once I get a little bit of color and bark on my meat side up, then I'm gonna go ahead and wrap the brisket and I'm gonna wrap it with the fat side up. It's gonna be in butcher paper. That fat, some of it's gonna render, it's gonna come down, it's gonna soak on the bottom of the paper, and it's gonna add a lot of flavor to the meat side of that brisket. And then when it's done, we're gonna slice it fat side up, the way it's normal and traditional here in Texas. And so the point, which is the biggest, fattiest part, and you can see a lot of the marbling right there, right in, a lot of intramuscular. The grain's a lot bigger, it's a lot fattier compared to the flat. You can see here the flat, it's much more dense. It has plenty of fat because it's a prime, but it's not nearly as much as the point has. I'm gonna sort of straighten this out a little bit right here. Has a little bit of fat here. We want to get some of that membrane off of there so that the smoke and the rub will penetrate that and the fat. This big old hunk of fat here, and I'm gonna slowly but surely get rid of that. I'm gonna shave it all the way across. There's a big old piece of fat that's totally useless. Okay, so we've got it looking a little bit nice and pretty, so we're gonna start working on our rub here in just a second. I'm just gonna get a tiny bit more off of this. I'm not gonna worry about it too much. That's the brisket right there. That's the whole thing. Now we're gonna mix the traditional, super secret brisket rub. Actually, it's no secret. The traditional is about a 50-50 ratio of salt and pepper. Me personally, I like to use the kosher salt from Morton's. It's really a great salt. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna take about a cup of that, a half a cup, I'm sorry. We'll take about a half a cup. And then I like to use the Tone's restaurant style black pepper. So we're gonna mix half a cup of this. That's about a half a cup, and that is the traditional Texas style brisket rub. Me, I like a little more pepper, so I'm gonna put a little more pepper in mine. Stir it up, mix it up a little bit, let it get nice and even. And I'm watching it, I can see that the pepper and the salt are mixing well together and getting nice and even. And then I'll roll it this way for a little while, a few times. Now I'm gonna roll it back the other way. What you don't wanna do is shake it like this, because the salt is still a little bit smaller than the pepper, and the finer particles settle on the bottom. So you don't want to do this kind of shake. You want to do it like this. Blend it. This is more of a blending process right here. That makes it nice and even. We're just going to do a nice even shake. You see how even that comes out from the shaker? Nice and even. And one of my friends, William Powell, likes to say, shake it, don't cake it. So that's all we're going to do. We're going to lay that on there. Make sure you get a little bit on the sides as well. I like to do the sides first so I don't mess up the top after I've done a nice even job on the top. Look at that. Nice even coat of salt and pepper. The secret Texas rub. Then all you got to do is just kind of pat it down a little bit. You're good to go. I'm going to put one more layer. I'm gonna put a little bit more. Now we're gonna take this baby, we're gonna go put it out on the Hasty Bake grill outside. And we're running right around 325 degrees. I like to go ahead and choke this down a little bit. I'm gonna lower my fire tray all the way down. What that does, that slows the airflow. That's gonna bring my temperature down after I lay my brisket in there, is I lay the flat towards the fire first. I know, that sounds counterintuitive because this side's fatter than that side, it's thicker. But the flat is a lot leaner and it's more dense than the point. So actually the point, in my experience, over and over I've seen and I've learned that the point will actually render before the flat does. Because of the fat renders, it comes out and it's done early. The flat, because it's a little bit more dense, has a little less fat than the point, will always render last. So here we go. The Legacy is just gonna cruise on cruise control. I'm not even gonna lift the lid. I'm not gonna look at it. I don't need to for about 2 hours. All right, friends, we've had our Texas style brisket in our Hasty Bake Legacy 132 model for approximately, let's see, hour and a half, that's 3, about 4.5 hours or so. We're getting ready to wrap it in butcher paper. This is the traditional barbecue house way of wrapping brisket in Texas. Right about like that. You want to wrap it fat side up because the fat's going to continue to render, and that fat's going to drizzle down to the bottom, and it's going to engulf the bottom part of the brisket. It's just going to add a lot of flavor. The fat is flavor in this case. All right, you want to fold the ends in so that it's nice and tight. Helps keep the juices in. Now we're going to point the flat towards the fire one more time. I like to finish at a little bit slower temperature. I want to make sure that fat renders inside and the collagen that's in the meat renders. So I'm going to slow it down a little bit. Low and slow is generally considered somewhere around 225 degrees. So I'm going to go grab my deflector that comes with the Hasty Bake, and I'm going to put it over the fire. And you'll see here in just a few minutes, it's going to lower that temperature down closer to where I want to be, somewhere around 225. One of the reasons I like that deflector in there is because it creates nice, even temperatures. You're not going to have one end done more than the other. It creates nice, even cooking. And this is a real important thing. You want to run a ThermalWorks chef alarm. Then you can go ahead and insert it right here. I like to use mine right about the center of the brisket. We're sitting right at 198 degrees. We're just about done. We're very close to home, folks. Yep, we really are up there, 201. This brisket is about done, friends. A couple of things you have to remember and take into consideration. It was 100 degrees out here today. This is a stainless steel grill, so it has a little bit of reflective characteristics to it. So it does cook a little hotter than most of them. But remember that, guys, if it's super hot outside, you're gonna need to shorten your cooking time down. If it's cold outside, if it's 30 degrees, 45 degrees, it might increase your cooking time. Our brisket's done, we're gonna pull it out. We're gonna rest it for about 15-20 minutes, let it stop cooking. Then we're gonna put it in our camber and rest it about another hour and a half or two. And once again, I'll mention it was 6 hours flat on the Hasty Bake. And we're finally down under 200 degrees. We're sitting at 196 degrees internal temperature. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the camber and let it continue to cool off slowly. All right, we're ready to pull our brisket out of the camber. It's been resting for about 3 hours. Finally came down to about 163 degrees, close to 160, close enough for me. Who's ready for some brisket? All right, barbecue lovers, it's been a long, hot day cooking brisket, Central Texas style brisket over a post oak fire. And we cooked a beautiful 16-pound brisket. It was a lot of fun making this video. We hope you guys enjoy it. We hope that you go out. We hope to inspire you to go out and cook your own brisket, Central Texas style. Remember to like, comment, and share, and tag somebody who needs to know.